That's today's Focus on the Field with Bridget Riedel, your ag industry expert. Tune in for Bridget's Ag News updates each weekday here on WDAY.
They'll have you laughing right along with them. They're Bonnie and Friends.
It's a fun song for him
That's
to
deep,
do.
right?
It's very deep.
His pockets are deep after selling that one out.
Yeah, they are.
I'm going to print the words out. What's donkey?
He'll be doing line
Jeff's
dancing.
going to get his very first tattoo on his ribs.
Yeah,
It's gonna
that's
be
right.
the
Are you
lyrics
asking
stuff.
what a
It's gonna say-
badonkadonk is?
Yeah, what's a badonkadonk?
You know, she had a nice booty. She had a
Oh.
honky-tonk badonkadonk.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
Now
Why do
more
I
than
have
ever.
to explain everything
Oh,
to
now
you?
it's a great song.
Bonnie and Friends. Catch them weekday mornings beginning at 5.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM. Fargo-Moorhead.
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us on this afternoon. We're looking at temperatures still slightly below zero and wind chills, well, still well below zero at about 25 below right now. I'm Meteorologist Justin. I'm here with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, and you are listening to Weather and Ag in Focus. We thank you for joining us today, and if you want to join in on our conversation anytime during the show, feel free to do so by giving us a call at 701-293-9000, or you can always reach us during or after our show via email at weatherorag@flagfamily.com. We live stream every single day right on Facebook as well as YouTube Live and Acres TV. Go ahead and check those spots out where you can go and watch all of our past shows and our past interviews and ag topics that we cover during the show. We got some fun things coming up on the show today. Dean, you have one of your friends that will be joining us today, and he's a storm chaser. And maybe you want to give a little introduction to who that's going to be.
Yeah, so we'll have Nate Moore. He is a storm chaser out of Nebraska. He's been doing this for a number of years, and he's been actually chasing all over the country. So he'll have some pretty fascinating stories about what's the largest storm he's chased. Has he chased anything where he's almost gotten in what they call the bear's cage, which is not the place you want to be in when you're chasing storms. So we'll talk to him about that. Kind of pick his brain on some of the best things he's seen, some of the scariest. Maybe they've gone out where it's been a total bust, where you're waiting, and kind of what it's like. I know it's a big thrill for a lot of people, and it gets the adrenaline going. There's so many people. A lot of amateurs go storm chasing, which is very dangerous. It really is, unless you know what you're doing. But like I said, Nate's been doing it for years, and he knows Pecos Hank. He was pretty amazed that we were able to get him on the air with us last year. So he'll have some great stories to tell as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. And again, we're missing someone today. No Bridget. She's off in, I believe she's down in New Orleans. So she's a guest speaker at is it the Cattlemen's Association down there? Or
Correct. Yep, that's right. Yeah, down in
she's
New Orleans.
down there speaking. She'll be back on Monday, maybe Tuesday. I think she'll be back on Monday. So we'll get to pick her brain on more of these ag topics. And maybe we'll pick her brain on what she thinks about you and me getting a little bit of farmland and starting up a little operation around town.
See, I'm telling you, it's a moneymaker, man. We can do it. We just got to get the back end of our boss to buy the land, and then we'll take care of it after that.
Right, or he can just rent it.
Exactly.
We'll throw him $20 more than what it cost him, so it's an investment for him.
And then we'll give him a little cut out of the action. Absolutely.
There we go.
See,
yeah, I think it's going to be a win-win for both parties here, and
right. You can follow everybody can follow our progress, see how we're doing.
Yeah, they'll go up on our YouTube channel and be like, "Oh man, you guys call that corn?" Well, we'll try and throw in an ag topic or two in here in between discussing what the weather's looking like, and I know there's a lot of news going on around this Chinese spy balloon. Where'd that come from?
What was that?
So it said this Chinese spy balloon. Or is it a UFO?
We'll have to wait and see.
Maybe, I think I was reading something a little interesting on that actually, where potential flight path of that balloon was launched in coordinates of a specific weather pattern that was setting up. So We'll touch on that a little bit coming up during the show. Also, our guest. And remember, if you want to call in with questions, you want to pick our guest's brain, he's got lots of great stories that he's going to be sharing with us. 701-293-9000. We really look forward to hearing from you. So stay tuned. Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be right back.
From ABC News, I'm Derek Dennis. President Biden this morning praising the federal government's January jobs report. U.S. employers adding 517,000 jobs, but Biden says that's just one set of numbers.
We've created 12 million jobs since I took office. That means we have created more jobs in 2 years than any presidential term. Than any time.
The president, meantime, refusing to answer questions about a suspected Chinese spy balloon flying over the western U.S. Chinese officials calling it a civilian airship and expressing regret that it crossed into U.S. airspace. The tension so high, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has postponed a planned trip to China this weekend.
U.S. officials noting that the path the balloon appears to be taking flies directly over at least some sensitive U.S. sites, including one of 3 nuclear missile silo fields in the nation at Malmstrom Air Force Base.
ABC's Mola Lenghi in Montana, former State Department official and ABC News contributor Steve Ganyard says the motive here is unclear.
If the Chinese were looking to collect intelligence, it's a bit of a mystery because they have satellites that could do as good, if not better job in collecting high-resolution imagery of this parts of the United States, which suggests this may have been testing the U.S. air defenses.
For now, the U.S. has decided not to shoot down the balloon. They're bundling up in the Northeast, could get as low as 60 below in New England tonight and this weekend.
Some places could feel like minus 60 degrees. Boston declaring a cold emergency. Schools are closed and warming centers are open. Wind chills there expected to plunge to 33 below zero tomorrow.
I get my coat on and then my gloves are in my bag and I have my hat and I just bundle up as much as possible.
Meanwhile, in the south, warmer temperatures finally on the way after that deadly multi-day ice storm.
ABC's Andrea Fujii. In the south, about 330,000 power outages, with Austin, Texas especially hard hit. At least 10 deaths blamed on icy roads. You're listening to ABC News.
Inside a dimly lit room at the LBJ Library in Austin, Texas, a motion sensor triggers a recording, and a voice fills the room.
Suddenly, there was a sharp, loud report. A shot.
It's the voice of Lady Bird Johnson, the wife of Lyndon Johnson.
He wants to get out. There is no way out.
Lady Bird recorded her entire experience in the White House, hours and hours of tape that almost no one has ever heard. And those tapes, they end up rewriting history. This is a story about one of the most influential members of the administration, even if we never knew it.
I wrote out for Lyndon about a 9-page analysis of what I thought his situation was.
From Best Case Studios and ABC Audio, listen to In Plain Sight, Lady Bird Johnson. Available now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Score points before the big game by getting more from Family Dollar. Save big on everything you need to get the party started, like soft drinks and snacks from Pepsi and Frito-Lay. Family Dollar, helping you do more.
Hey everyone, John Adams here. I hope you'll join me on WDAY Radio for my new talk show, Talk of the Town with John Adams. Every Wednesday from 11 to noon, we'll talk about issues that affect us all in the Fargo-Moorhead community. We'll talk taxes, the diversion, places to go and things to do, and of course, Bison and Viking football. We'll talk about issues that affect everyone in this great community that we call home. That's Talk of the Town with John Adams, Wednesdays at 11 on WDAY Radio.
At Helping Hands Care, the key is finding the right people. They are currently hiring for CNAs and homemakers in their Fargo office, full and part-time with flexible schedules. Apply at helpinghandscareND.com.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki alongside Meteorologist Justin. Storm Bridget Riedel has got the day off. She's down in New Orleans, and she's one of the guest speakers down in New Orleans at the Cattlemen's Association conference down there. So I'm sure she's having a good time, and it's much warmer weather down there. That is for sure. We're looking at temperatures out there right now. Oh, about 5 to 10 below. So it's still a cold afternoon. You factor in those south winds gusting to 30, and it feels like it's about 25 to 30 below. So just be careful if you're out and about. Again, you could get frostbite if you're out there 10 minutes or so if those extremities aren't covered. The good news is those southerly winds we have blowing right now are going to give us some warmer weather finally as we head into the upcoming weekend and much of next week. We never got our January thaw, so Mother Nature has decided to give us our February thaw as we head into next week. But the forecast for tonight, we'll actually see steady to slowly rising temperatures as we head into tonight. And tomorrow, not a bad day, all considering where we've been. Highs tomorrow in the upper 20s. Some spots will touch 30. A little breezy, but not too bad out of the west-southwest, about 10 to 15. And then a few snow showers possible tomorrow night as a cool front swings on through very quickly. But temperatures behind that, not much cooler for Sunday. We're looking at temperatures in the mid-20s. And then most of next week, at least the first half of next week, we will be kind of bouncing back between the mid-20s and low 30s. So that's our thaw. That's our January thaw coming a little bit late this year. And Justin, I got an email in this morning from one of our listeners. He said, "Hey, I follow along with your LRC calendar, and if you want to follow along on our LRC calendar, just log on to WDAYRadioNow.com and click on the weather link and kind of scroll down there. You'll see a link for the LRC calendar." And he said, "It looks like you have the first week of February. There's nothing on your calendar. Does that mean that there's no weather?" Or he was concerned about, we had that big clipper come through with the cold front just the other day and ushered in a quick blast of Arctic air. I said, listen, I said, how we do it is we target the bigger storms and when they're expected, and the cold snaps when they're expected as well, using the LRC. So the reason we had nothing on there is because we weren't expecting much, if anything, in the way of precip. We should probably put a temperature graph up there. I know you've got one made, Justin, and I know you've got cold snaps and all that, but the temperature graph that we've got in the office, we should probably post that on there for our listeners to kind of look at when these cold snaps and how cold it's going to get. So I was looking at that because we've got poles and holes coming up in Detroit Lakes for the fishing tournament next weekend, and a lot of people have been asking, what are the models showing? What is the LRC showing? And the LRC is showing a punch of cooler air for next weekend, but not Arctic. So it won't be in the 30s like it has been, or like it will be here coming up early this week. But it looks like we will cool down for next weekend for that tournament. So we'll be keeping an eye on that with the Arctic surge coming back here, according to the LRC, right around mid-month or so, which that should be pretty good healthy punch. And we're still waiting on those storms. Again, a couple of big storms expected mid-month. Whether that affects our area or areas down in the Central Plains, again, we'll have to see how that pans out, how strong and deep that Arctic air is as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on with those, that big cold snap in the middle of the month. And I got a feeling, I don't know if it's going to be our coldest cold snap we've ever had, but it does look like it's got potential to be a lengthy one, maybe 7 to 10 days, possibly lingering a little longer than that. So something to keep an eye on. That cold air, it's looming to our north. Canada's, at times 20 to 40 below zero. We're just waiting for that big storm to rip all of that cold air down to our south. But we've had some, like you said, not too bad of weather. We got these warm temperatures coming in this weekend, and that's all due to a little bit of ridging that's coming into our area. And I think we're going to have to save this topic for when we come back after our guest that will be joining us here in our next segment. But that spy balloon, and what's going on with that? Did it come from China? Did it come from somewhere else?
Hidden power, secrets, cover-ups, corruption. You think you know the whole story? Think again.
So we'll
Jesse
touch on that a
Ventura
little
sure
bit
knows.
Too. Oh man, we need to get him on the show. I'm telling you, Bridget would have a fit.
Oh man. Well, coming up after the break, we have our guest for the day on, Nathan Moore. He's out of Nebraska. He is he's a renowned storm chaser. He's had videos on Weather Channel, Good Morning America, all of that stuff. He's been all over the U.S. chasing storms for a number of years. So when we come back, we'll have Nathan on with us. If you have any questions for Nathan or for us, give us a call, 701-293-9000. Again, that's 701-293-9000. We'll be right back.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk, the facts about a Govix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact: Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
Farmers know a thing or two about being tough, and they hold their wheat to that same standard. Their fields need to be able to take on anything, because there's no telling what tomorrow has in store. That's why Westbred brand wheat offers varieties like the new WB 9606, offering good stress tolerance, and WB 9719, offering outstanding yield potential and excellent standability. Meet your standards of excellence. Plant Westbred. Performance may vary.
When it comes to cereal disease protection, Prosaro Pro 400 SC fungicide from Bayer makes all the difference. With 3 effective active ingredients for overlapping control of foliar and head diseases, and a flexible application window for head scab, it's formulated to lower DON, protect yield potential, and promote superior grain quality. Prosaro Pro. The future of plant health starts here. Visit prosaropro.com to learn more. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
You can always count on Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Always crisp, always easy drinking, always just right. The perfect balance of flavor and refreshment since 1903. Welcome to the High Life. 2019 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Celebrate responsibly.
Fair Meadow Nursing Home is a 42-bed skilled nursing facility in fertile Minnesota. They pride themselves on the small-town, close-knit, home environment feel it provides its residents. And Fair Meadow Nursing Home is now hiring for the following positions: CNA, LPN, CNA therapy aides, dietary cook, dietary aide, and housekeeping aides. Fair Meadow Nursing Home and Assisted Living is committed to providing seniors a rich, meaningful, and dignified life, focusing on physical, social, spiritual, and emotional needs in order to provide the best life journey possible.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. And we've got a special guest today. It's Nathan Moore. He's a storm chaser, and he's out of Nebraska. Welcome, Nathan. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here.
All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So kind of give people an idea of, you're storm chasing. What exactly do you do, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been, we're going on pretty much 30 years now. Since 1990, I've been chasing off and on throughout my life. And I work for the University of Nebraska, but in my spare time, my passion and my hobby is getting under Mother Nature's wrath and seeing what it provides. And that's what I do in all my free time.
And how many times do you get out chasing during the spring and early summer months?
It doesn't stop the whole year, but obviously March through July is the busy time, and I probably get out there on pretty much every event. And then once we get past that, it goes into hurricane season, and then we get some southern severe season during the winter months. So it kind of goes on. My slow time's now January and February. Not a whole lot of systems coming through.
Now, do you chase any winter storms, or is it just strictly severe weather season?
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. For the local folks here in Nebraska, we'll definitely get out there. We just had a big snowstorm, about a week ago that rolled through Kearney here in Nebraska. It dumped a lot of snow here, so was definitely out and about for that.
Right. And how far out do you go for your storm chasing? And you go all over the United States, or you usually stick around the central U.S., southern plains?
Everywhere. I'll go anywhere. Like I said, we'll do the hurricanes. We were there January 2nd for that the Texas, Louisiana severe weather event. I was down there for that. So anywhere something crazy impactful is happening, I'm going to try and get there.
And Nate,
Right.
what would you say your most memorable chase has been thus far?
Most memorable?
Yeah.
Probably Hurricane Harvey. It was pretty wild. It was my first major hurricane. And it was only my third hurricane chase, and there was definitely some inexperience there. And I got myself caught in the northern eye wall with onshore 130 mile per hour winds and storm surge nearby.
Oh.
Pretty much scared me pretty good. And there are definitely some lessons learned. And now we always try to stay with the off-flow winds and keep her a little more safe.
Right. Well, you had just mentioned something there. It was your third hurricane chase. It was a little bit of inexperience that came and played into that. And I'm going to lead into a question involving that inexperience here in just a minute. But for those of us up here, most of us have never experienced a hurricane. We see little short clips and it just looks like a gray wall with all the wind and the rain. But paint a picture, if you could, for our listeners. What was that experience like? How long did it last? And, were there any points in there where you were like, hey, I'm kind of scared for my life, maybe?
Okay. Well, first off, I was very scared for my life. It's the only time that I've ever, during any storm chase, that I felt like I was going to die. That was my moment. And, the way I see it is, a lot of the times tornadoes are in that EF0 to EF2 range, 96% of them. And usually those are winds that somewhat manageable. I mean, we can get low EF0, EF1 tornado winds in a severe thunderstorm. But take that and run it for 12, 15, 24 straight hours. And that's what you're getting with a hurricane. There's no, a tornado's gone in 2-3 minutes. You're done. You're out of it. But this is going nonstop, long duration. That's the biggest picture and the biggest difference.
Right. And just the amount of rain, especially with Harvey that fell. I mean, what was it? It was like, if I remember right, 28 to 36 inches of rain in 36 hours or something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy up by Houston, and it came on shore. I was further south, down by Rockport. I never really got into the Houston area. But yeah, it's that thing just came on shore and it just sat over Houston and created a ton of flooding problems and dumped all that rain. But yeah.
Right. And what's the storm surge experience like? I mean, how fast does that happen? Is it a slow process? And how far inland does it really go, or can it go?
Well, my first hurricane, I was Hurricane Hermine. It was down in Florida. It was about a year or two before Harvey. I got to experience surge pretty close up, and at that point in time, it was strengthening Cat 1, and it was, I felt manageable, and so I remember that, and then I went to Harvey, and I was going down that highway, which was about 2 miles inland from the Gulf, and I was headed south towards Rockport, and that storm surge, there was nothing anywhere. And then we were like, well, maybe we should turn around because this isn't feeling good. And the storm surge was right on the highway. And I'm going, holy smokes, that was so fast and so far inland. We need to get that guy out of here. And so it really just depends on the storm. Obviously, the stronger the storm, the faster the surge is going to come in. But one thing I've told myself is I will never, ever put myself in the path of storm surge again. Those days are over.
And if you have any, if you have any questions for Nate, 701-293-9000. That's 701-293-9000. Go ahead, Justin.
So that kind of leads into another question there. You just mentioned you'd never put yourself in the storm surge again, but are you ever planning on going back into another hurricane or another major hurricane?
Absolutely. I just got done with Hurricane Ian. We had 140-mile-per-hour winds hitting the car. The difference is you set yourself where the winds are blowing offshore instead of onshore. You don't have to worry about surge on that side because it's pushing the water away from the coast. That's the most dangerous part of a hurricane is that storm surge. And I felt, I joke around. I was live streaming it for 48 hours and I dozed off with 130-mile-per-hour winds hitting my car. And people are like, how in the heck can you be falling asleep during that? I'm like, it's a whole different world when you got the winds going offshore than it is onshore. You don't have to worry about any of that water at that point.
Right. And Ian was a devastating hurricane. We had a couple of guests on, a couple of agronomists and a citrus expert down out of Florida who came on our show just a week and 2 weeks after Hurricane Ian had pushed its way through Florida and how that was affecting the citrus crop and whatnot. And that was really interesting, the amount of damage that, people just think, oh yeah, the buildings, towns, the beaches, the roads, they're ruined. Well, it goes much deeper than just the infrastructure when it comes to, the amount of agriculture goods that come out of Florida. But I'm going to backtrack now. I'd made that comment about the inexperience when it came to your trip down into Houston with the hurricane down there. How important is it to know what you're doing when it comes to storm chasing? And what do you say to those that are amateurs and they want to get out there, they want to get as close as they can to the storms?
Well, for hurricanes, I don't recommend doing anything without some sort of experience. Again, I had done 2 smaller hurricanes, and I felt at that point in time I was ready. But what I did, I went down to Hurricane Harvey when that thing was a tropical storm, and they were predicting maybe a Cat 1 at that point in time, and it just blew up. And it surprised everybody. And I'm like, well, I'm here. And so, we experienced it. But, if it's something, you're really dead set and wanting to get out there and, well, first off, it's going to be hard for you unless you got some sort of media credentials to get into it. But talk with somebody that's got experience and let them help you out and guide you, or ride along. And there's a lot of people out there that'll let you ride along with them. That's got crazy good experience. So yeah.
And we've got a caller on the line, Doug. He's got a question for you, Nate. Doug, what's your question today?
Hey, sir. Say I can't imagine 24 hours of 100-mile-an-hour wind. I sit in my house in Fargo and listen to a 50-mile-an-hour wind in a blizzard, and it just, you can certainly hear it. What is that sound like for that long? I can't imagine what that's like.
Well, stronger tornadoes. I've been in 4 different EF4 tornadoes. That has a very distinct sound. Definitely the roar of the train. What you hear people talking about is really legit. As far as, when you're in that 130, 140 mile per hour winds, I like to say it's kind of like a train in the distance. It's not like right on top of you where you're getting, winds that are more strong than that, but it's odd. It's odd. It's a different kind of experience because it's so prolonged. You don't really, I guess, when you've done it a lot and you've been in the position quite a bit, you don't really notice it quite as much after a while like you do the roar of a tornado coming up and then dissipating. That is way more obvious to me than in that type of situation when I was doing Hurricane Ian, for example, because it was such a slow buildup.
Cool. All right. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks for your call, Doug. Appreciate it. And we are going to take a short recess here. When we come back, we'll continue with Nate. If you have any questions for Nate, shoot us a call, 701-293-9000, or you can email us at weather@flagfamily.com. We'll be right back.
I talk with people all the time about little tips and tricks for filling their Medicare prescriptions, like taking advantage of Walgreens 90-day refills to save them a trip, or using Refill by Scan, which is super easy and right on your phone. And for anybody worried about prescription costs, I say, hey, we got you, with low-cost copays on many medications.
Let's talk about making things easier. Walgreens is here. Fill your way and save at walgreens.com/Medicare. See pharmacists for restrictions and exclusions.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Non-attorney paid spokesperson. Could your house go into foreclosure? Are you behind on your mortgage payments? Does it seem like the bank has no interest in helping you save your home? And you feel like you have nowhere to turn for help? Then we have good news for you. Foreclosure Protection Services can help save your home as they specialize in foreclosure assistance. That's all they do. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, being threatened with foreclosure, have been denied a loan modification, or been the victim of a predatory loan, it's critical that you call Foreclosure Protection Services now at 800-926-1701. Their network of attorneys and their agents are available to speak to you now. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, Foreclosure Protection Services can help stop the foreclosure process. Call today before it's too late. New laws are in effect that may save your home. Call Foreclosure Protection Services now at 800-926-1701. 800-926-1701. That's 800-926-1701.
Hey, if you like a delicious pale ale, Beverage Wholesalers has got one for you. Great new pale ale to try from the Great Northwest. It's Deschutes Red Chair NWPA. Deschutes only makes this beer when the snow is best in Central Oregon, so grab yourself a six-pack before it's gone. Select specialty malts round out the edges for a copper-colored brew that is really good. A great taste for the winter season. Deschutes Red Chair Northwest Pale Ale. Available at your local liquor store, but for a limited time only from your friends at Beverage Wholesalers.
Don't you hate when you forget something important? Grandma's birthday, the password to your old laptop, or picking up little Timmy from hockey practice? It's okay, we've all been there. Let us take one thing off your mind this year with Giving Hearts Day scheduled giving. Starting January 2nd, you can give to one of hundreds of charitable causes before the big day. You can even pledge to volunteer if that's your thing. Visit givingheartsday.org and help someone in your community today.
Do I feed my kids or fix my car?
A real story here at Fix It Forward Ministry and a testament to the importance of our mission in Fargo-Moorhead. Matthew Carlson here, co-founder of Fix It Forward Ministry. We've done over 800 free car repairs and donated over 375 vehicles in Fargo-Moorhead. But we want to do more. Please consider supporting us this February 9th on Giving Hearts Day. Visit Fix It Forward Ministry and click support to learn how you can help us make a bigger difference in our community. Fix It Forward Ministry, driven to serve.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. Our guest today is Nathan Moore. He's a storm chaser out of Nebraska, and he's chased, everything you can think of under the sun, from hurricanes to tornadoes, major winter storms, you name it. He's been there. And Nate, we've got a question from one of our listeners on, actually he messaged us on Facebook. He said, ask Nate about his Galveston hurricane chase, where he had a weirdo come up to his car that the police were chasing. You just never know what you're going to find, huh?
Well, I mean, that's part of the deal when you're out there and you're sitting in places for long periods of time. I was actually tracking a tornado warning from the tropical storm Beta in Galveston, Texas. And I was tracking a tornado warning, confirmed tornado that was going over the highway there in Galveston. And, I'm sitting there watching, looking for the tornado, and this guy comes up to my car, and, I figure he just probably somebody wanting some information about the storm. But next thing you know, he's like, can you help me? Can you help me? And he was acting really weird. And, it's one of those situations where, I do, keep stuff protection with me in my car, and that's like, well, this is weird. Long story short, cops came up, grabbed the guy, and it turns out that he had actually been shot in his stomach, and he was trying to carjack me to get away.
Oh,
and
oh wow,
and so yeah, that happened live on stream, and it was a pretty wild event. So it's just one of those things you got to be careful and watch your surroundings.
Man, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Again, if you have any questions for Nate, give us a call, 701-293-9000, or you can message us on Facebook. Also want to thank everybody for watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Acres TV. Nate, the Pilger tornado in Nebraska, that was one of the more fascinating storms that I can remember. I'm guessing you caught that, correct?
I did not.
You did not get the Pilger tornado. Okay.
No. And I like to, I talk to people all the time, is the tornadoes in Nebraska, it seems like since that was 2014, if my memory's right.
I think so, yeah.
And since then, it seems like it's, I call it the Pilger curse. I mean, we haven't had many, crazy tornado events in Nebraska since then.
Right.
But no, that's when I had just moved to Nebraska, and I was at my first year at the University of Nebraska, and I didn't have vacation time at that point, so I could not get to that event.
Oh wow!
What about storms? Oh, sorry, Dean. What about storms up here in North Dakota, Minnesota? Have you been on any recent storm chases up here in recent years, like the Ashby tornado or anything like that?
Nothing. I haven't had any. I've had some small guys up there, northeast South Dakota, western North Dakota. I haven't had any really significant tornadoes in the last couple of years up there. I come up there every single year. It seems like I'm up there end of June, July. And, between Montana and North Dakota, I'm bouncing around between Fargo and Billings. It seems like quite a bit there for a couple of weeks stretch every year. But the last couple of years, I haven't had a whole heck of a lot there. I've had I had a hailstorm. I was staying at a rest area just west of Fargo, off I-95 and
94. Yep.
Yeah, 94. And I pulled over this, and it hailed for like 6 straight hours over the car. I was like, this is crazy. So that's one of my fonder memories of chasing up there, and that was just a couple of years ago, and it just wouldn't stop hailing. But
what's the biggest hail you've encountered?
Oh, I've lost 2 vehicles because of hail. So I've had some big hail. I had a Ford Explorer that was in a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Both were, both had to be retired because of hail. So I mean, I've had up the grapefruits.
Oof.
So.
Oh wow. Jeez.
Yeah. And we have Steve, another caller. Steve is on the line. Steve, you've got a question for Nate.
Hey, this is great stuff. We had a tornado outbreak. And it's set up just east of the Fargo-Moorhead area. That's where that Wadena tornado in Minnesota really did a lot of damage. That was back about 2010, 11, somewhere there. Were you in that, or do you have any recollection of that?
I don't. No, at that point in time, I was living in Rapid City, South Dakota, so I was focused on northeast Colorado, Wyoming, and western South Dakota at that point in time. I know the biggest thing I chased outside that area at that point, because I was raising kids at that point, so my chasing was more confined then, was the Spencer EF4 tornado in, I think it was 1998. That was the biggest thing I had chased during that kind of decade time frame. But
no, that's great. I remember that it broke out, and it was like all the way from middle of Minnesota all the way up and looped around to northern North Dakota.
Wow.
That's a pretty odd path too, for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. And we've got another caller. Craig is on the line. He's got a question for you, Nate, too. Craig, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah. Say, if you are caught in the path of a tornado, if it looks like it's going to come on you, where is the best place to take protection? Is it like a low area, lie flat, get away from certain things? Should you leave your vehicle? What kind of advice do you have there?
First thing you don't do is, and I love the be able to tell people this. I teach this at University of Nebraska too, is don't get under an underpass. You never do that. If you find yourself caught in a car and you've got a ditch somewhere nearby, that's the best place to go, is to get into the lowest ditch, because then you have a chance of the tornado going above you. The worst part of a tornado is the debris. That's what's going to get you. And hopefully, if you get in a low-lying area, it'll skid right above you, and you'll be okay. So that's definitely the best place to go, is the lowest ditch that you can find.
A culvert would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
I would think so, yeah. No?
Yeah, no, that is good, but you don't want it. A lot of times you'll get the heavy rain with the tornado, so you don't. As soon as that tornado is over, you want to get out of that culvert very quickly in case there's some possibility of flash flooding.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate your call.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah.
We had another question there for you, Nate. This was from one of our YouTube listeners. They were wondering what type of tornadoes get the most exciting, as there's several different types of tornadoes. Maybe you want to expand that a little bit when he's referring to what are these different types of tornadoes, and then dive into what is your favorite.
Well, I'm guessing they're saying what I like the best, and what I like the best is on the plains, away from the trees, a beautiful tornado with a great blue sky backdrop, and that's not doing any damage. That's for me is perfection. I've had a few of those instances, and that's my favorite. Chugwater, Wyoming, July 4th, a few years ago, is one that comes to mind, and it was just literally a perfect tornado that was not moving. It was in a field, and I sat there and watched it for 30 minutes. Had blue skies behind it, blue skies in front of it. It was just incredible. Beautiful. And so when you can sit there and just watch that for 30 minutes, that's pretty much heaven for me.
Yeah. And Nate, what is the strongest or largest tornado that you've had the experience to chase, and what was it like?
Chasing, I've seen 4 EF4s, okay. Spencer, South Dakota, Linwood, Kansas, Rowlett, Garland, Texas, and the most recent was Mayfield, Kentucky, last year, December 10th, and that to me was the most scariest one. It was after dark. I couldn't see it. I mean, Rowlett, Garland was after dark too, but that thing, I was driving through Mayfield, and I can hear the roar of the tornado, and I knew it was an emergency, so I knew it was huge. And I mean, I still get goosebumps just talking about it. And there was a point in time during that chase where I had to make a decision, and the decision probably saved my life. And it's one of those things where I'm driving away, I'm going 80 miles an hour in a 55, and I've got a police officer passing me, and I can see debris flying in my rearview mirror. I mean, that's how close it was. So that was probably the scariest. It was probably the worst I'd seen. I mean, I had seen some pretty crazy damage with Rowlett, Garland, but that was probably the craziest one I was in.
Wow. Now, do you sell any of your prints or videos or anything like that? I know we had Pecos Hank on late last year, and he had some incredible prints. Do you deal with that, or sell the videos at all, or how do you do that?
Well, I mean, you're familiar with how it is in the media. I do that some through the media, and Pecos is, his stuff is incredible. My photography is nowhere near that.
Okay.
and I put my focus is on the live stream side of things. That's where I put everything and reinvest everything is into the live stream.
Okay.
So I don't do as much as I do photography. But it's not something I go around bragging about. I'll just put it like that.
Right. Now, if there's any amateur storm chasers out there, or storm chasers wannabe, I know the last thing you don't want to see, or you don't want to run into, are some of these amateurs that have no clue on how to storm chase, but it's like, hey, let's get a 6-pack of beer and go chase after those storms. I'm sure you've run into those people before. What advice can you give people that are looking to get into storm chasing?
Well, if you're looking to get into it, I mean, there's some good people out there, and there's some good resources out there that's very basic, that can help you. But the most important thing is I would never, especially out here in the plains, you shouldn't get out there, and unless you have found somebody with some experience that could help you out. It's the part I always like to tell people when they say this is, tornadoes are not the most dangerous part of storm chasing. People probably think it is, but it's the drivers around you that is the most dangerous, because people see a tornado and they freak out. And it's the flooding. You never know when the flooding is going to hit. It's the lightning. You never know when the lightning hit. If you see a tornado, there's a tornado in front of you, you can go away from it. Unless you're being crazy and getting right under it, you know exactly where that's at. So what I try to tell people is, you think it's just chasing tornadoes. It isn't. You got a lot to deal with. The most important part being other people. And so I definitely always tell people, ride with somebody. There's tours out there that do it. There's lots of tours. Sure. That will take you and get you in there and let you experience it and see if you like it. I've taken a few people out. I know 3 people, 2 of them came back crying, and it's like
crying with happiness or crying with fear.
fear.
Okay.
And it's one of those things. It's like, people see a movie and they just think it's okay. Yeah. And but yeah, you really gotta be prepared.
Okay. Well, Nate.
Right. Well, yeah, that's how those 3 or 4 Oklahoma University students ended up passing away from storm chasing. It wasn't from necessarily the tornado, but they ended up hydroplaning off the road in the downpours and flipped their car over into the ditch. And you were speaking of other people can be the more dangerous part of it, not necessarily in a danger part, but going across the United States storm chasing, doing it for a living, there's probably some fun characters and some recognized people that you've probably run into, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. And there's a lot of people are really, really good, and there's some, unfortunately, that aren't, and you just have to really be observant. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You just have to be completely observant about your surroundings when you're doing it.
And Nate, we've got one last question here from emailed into us. They said, Nate said he's lost, I think it was 2 cars, you said, due to hail. Does he have to carry any special insurance on his vehicles when he is storm chasing? It's a good question.
No, it's expensive though.
Right.
The insurance guys know who I am, and so they're gonna get their money out of me, and and it is that. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
I mean,
exactly. So. Exactly. Well, Nate, thank you so much for joining us. We've appreciated it. I'm sure our listeners have as well. Before we leave, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can get in contact with you?
Probably just email me, I would say. stormchaserirl@gmail.com is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
I live stream at stormchaserirl on Twitch.
And we'll put up that link to your Facebook page on our Weather and Ag in Focus Facebook page. We'll kind of link it on there in case anybody wants to get a hold of you as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Nate, for joining us. And we've got to pay some bills. And when we come back, we'll give a recap of our weather and talk about that Chinese spy balloon and how did it get all the way over to our area? Did the upper-level winds carry it this way? We'll have more on that coming up next.
Excuse me. I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. I used to be the CEO of your closet. Now I'm just that one intern no one ever talks to. I always thought you'd circle back with me, get granular, keep me in the pipeline. But nada. Nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So, I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. You know weather is always changing. So if it's the morning commute with Bonnie and friends or the drive home with Jay Thomas, join Justin, Storm, and myself to get you the current conditions and future conditions you need throughout the day. Also, don't forget our LRC Spring and Summer Outlook, live with Jay Thomas March 7th from 2 to 5 here on News Talk Radio 970 WDAY.
Now is the perfect time to take advantage of preseason savings on Flow from Lakeland General Store. Flow docks and lifts are simply the best, featuring exclusive, easy-level systems that make raising and lowering your docks a breeze, plus effortless install and removal. Take advantage of super savings. Stop by Lakeland General Store and ask about discounts and guaranteed spring delivery. Lakeland General Store at the junction of Highway 59 and 34, Dunvilla.
Grain and oil seeds were mixed to lower, while livestock was mostly higher. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this closing market. Not a lot of action in the grain and oilseed markets today. They're ending the day almost as they opened up this morning. The only exception was soy meal prices. They remained sharply higher as fund managers continued to build on what is believed to be a record ownership by managed funds. Fundamentally, we have tighter supplies of meal domestically due to some weather and rail issues that created some shortages this winter. Globally, traders are worried that Argentine soy meal exports will decline this year due to the drought-shortened crop there. That's largely provided the impetus for soybeans to continue their longer-term trend higher over the past several months. Additional soybean strength comes from harvest delays in Brazil that have extended our export season in a year when supplies are very snug. Marketing year-to-date export sales now exceed the seasonal pace needed to hit USDA's current export target by 72 million bushels, while actual shipments exceed the pace by 20 million. The question will be, is that going to significantly pull USDA's current ending stock estimates of 210 million bushels notably lower? Now, final soybean ending stocks ended up lower than USDA's January estimate in 21 of the past 26 years. The reason was usually stronger than expected exports. Let's get a look at the closing commodity numbers. March corn up 2 1/4 at 677.5. March beans down 2 1/4 at 15.32. Bean meal March up 470 a ton at 496.50. Bean oil March down 188 at 59.06. Wheat Chicago March down 4 1/4 at 756 3/4. Kansas City March down 7 3/4 at 873. And the March Minneapolis wheat that was down 4 at 920 3/4. Live cattle February up 52 at 160.27. Feeders March up 17 at 186.10. And the February lean hogs, they're down 32 at 75.02. The dollar sits at 102.7, and crude oil is trading down about $2.50 at just over $73 a barrel. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. It's 1:54 in the afternoon, and we've been promoting the phone lines. We've been getting a lot of calls, and we appreciate that. We're going to head back over to that phone line, which is 701-293-9000. We're going to bring John into the show. John, welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. What's going on today?
Well, Dean got me thinking back at the top of the hour when the show first started about this Chinese weather balloon. You want to cue up that music again there, Dean?
An unexplained phenomenon.
But when you see radar tracings, ground-based eyewitness reports, there's something going on here.
There you go.
Well, you know how the Chinese are masters at copyright infringement and patent violations and coming out with a cheaper version? I think they're trying to copy the LRC.
They're on their way to us, Dean.
John, you might be right. I'm telling you, you might be spot on.
And it's either that or Janae is up to another prank.
We'll have to check with her. John, thanks so much for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. We appreciate it. We've got a couple minutes if you have any questions, 701-293-9000. And you know what? It was funny. I was reading an article today, Justin, about how the European model and the European Model Forecast Center, they are now experimenting with a model that can accurately forecast out 30 days. And I'm kind of chuckling inside because I'm thinking, well, it's too bad they don't use the LRC where you can accurately forecast out a lot further than that. So I kind of got to chuckle on that. But it is good to see that, the meteorological community is trying to improve those forecasts, especially long term. So that was always good to see.
Yeah, that is a good chuckle. But yeah, let's talk about this balloon a little bit. What's going on? If you got thoughts on this, like John did, give us a call, 701-293-9000. We want to hear from you what you think is going on with this balloon. Did it come from China? Did it come from somewhere else? Well, I don't know all the facts on exactly where it originated from, but the talk of the town is it's coming from China, and it rode a weather pattern across the Pacific Ocean into Alaska, down the Rockies, and into the central United States.
And you know what? And you sent me that. And why don't we put that up on our Facebook page, Justin, before the day is done? Because it does show that. I mean, the upper air pattern would carry it directly up through Alaska and then down through areas of the Pacific Northwest into the northern Rockies. So it's absolutely feasible. And here's the thing. So I looked at our upper level winds where this Chinese spy balloon or whatever it is located, and the winds up at, because it's right around 60,000 feet, so it's about twice as high as a jet stream. So it's not riding the so-called jet stream, at least in our area or in the northern Rockies. It is riding some upper level winds, and the winds, quite honestly, at that level. Now, winds jet stream level this time of the year, you're cruising at 100 to 200 miles an hour, sometimes a little bit higher. And the winds aloft where that balloon is, it's only about 60 to 70 miles an hour. So, I mean, assuming this thing has some steering capabilities, that's very feasible that this could have rode initially the jet stream up into Alaska and then steered, got high enough where it can kind of control the other upper level winds as well. So kind of a strange situation. Lance is on line one. Lance, you've got a question. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, they were talking about it on the regular news. Fox News was talking about how they had noticed it came into America 5 days ago, and that it is holding perfectly still over Montana. And they say it's the size of 2 normal city buses. Now tell me if that isn't artificial intelligence or it's being manned.
Right.
To hold it still.
Yeah, and like I said, thanks for calling, Lance. We appreciate it. And like we were saying, that the winds at the upper levels aren't overly strong. So if it has any steering capability, it definitely could man itself and kind of hold in place. That's why they have it up above the jet stream level where it can be controlled a little bit. So kind of an interesting scenario. I know Jay Thomas is going to have this on his program here coming up after Weather and Ag in Focus. Real quick recap on the weather. Cold today, sub-zero wind chills for the rest of the afternoon. Warming up over the weekend into the 20s, upper 20s and near 30 on Saturday, and mid to upper 20s on Sunday. So that'll do it for Weather and Ag in Focus. We want to thank you so much for joining us and wishing everybody out there a happy and wonderful warm weekend. Get out and enjoy it. We'll see you on Monday.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Tucker.